أعلن استقالة الحكومة.
الاستقالة كان ينبغي أن تحصل منذ زمن طويل.
ماذا عن آلاف الخبراء الروس والإيرانيين ومقاتلي حزب الله؟
Good afternoon and thank you for joining us on FutureTV. I'm Linda Tamim and these are today's top stories. Future Bloc leader Fouad Senoura meets President Sleiman before heading to Saudi Arabia for talks with former Prime Minister Saad Hariri. Internal Security Forces Chief Ashraf Rifi hands over responsibilities to General Roger Salem in an official ceremony before he is set to retire. And Catholic Christians mark Holy Saturday in the Church of the Sepulchre in Jerusalem, the site of Jesus' crucifixion, burial, and resurrection. Future Bloc leader Fouad Senoura has met with President Michel Sleiman before traveling to Saudi Arabia for a meeting with former Prime Minister Saad Hariri. The meeting was held at Babda Palace this morning. Media reports say that Senoura aims to hold talks with Hariri ahead of the April 5th and 6th binding consultations between Sleiman and the parliamentary blocs regarding the election of Prime Minister designate. Reports added the Future Bloc is backing the formation of a neutral cabinet. In remarks to Al Safir Daily, Lebanese Forces leader Samir Geagea said the new Prime Minister, who will replace Premier Najib Mikati, ought to be unbiased. And Interior Minister Marwan Sharbel says there should be a postponement of the parliamentary elections for technical reasons. Speaking to Al Daily, the minister also stressed the importance of avoiding a political vacuum and cited ways to prevent such a vacuum from happening. Meanwhile, he specified that the country's political parties agree on an electoral law prior to June 20th, and if a make-up date for the election is set before a new cabinet is formed, then the government could be in charge of overseeing the electoral process. Retiring Police Chief Major General Ashraf Rifi handed over his job to Brigadier General Roger Salem during an official ceremony today. The handover ceremony was held at the Beirut Police Headquarters in Ashrafiyeh, according to a statement issued by the Internal Security Forces. Rifi, Director General of the Internal Security Forces for the past 9 years, retires on April 1st. Salem will serve as acting head of the ISF until a new Director General is appointed. And Maronite Patriarch Bshara Ra'i has urged the authorities not to allow arms smuggling and to prevent the use of Lebanese territories as bases to attack Syria. He warned against attempts to push Lebanon to a national crisis and urged the Lebanese to agree on change within the framework of the Constitution and the state's institutions. He added the Lebanese will not tolerate politicians who work for their personal and sectarian interests. Ra'i said a procrastination on an agreement on the new cabinet to salvage the country from political and sectarian divisions will not be tolerated. And the Lebanese army says it has arrested 3 gunmen for opening fire on a patrol after tossing a hand grenade in an area in Tripoli. The army said the armed man riding a Mercedes in the area of Douar Abu Ali opened fire in an attempt to breach security and terrorize citizens. An army patrol was caught on fire when it reached the area. Patrol members stopped the assailants and seized their arms and ammunition. 1 man was wounded in the attack and was taken to a nearby hospital. Chairman of the Syrian National Council calls on the international community to boost efforts to topple the country's embattled president. Turkish Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan says the Syrian opposition is stronger on the field and is more legitimate in the eyes of international community. Erdogan praised the Syrian opposition have managed to elect a provisional prime minister despite the violent and cruel policies that the Syrian regime has been implementing for the past 2 years.
In Daraa these days indicates that the age of Bashar al-Assad and his regime will be end soon. As what happened in Al-Raqqa, a province freed, fully freed. Also, I think soon Daraa province also will be free. That means there should be a bridge between the north to the west, north to the south.
Moving on to Jerusalem, Catholic Christians have held prayer to mark Holy Saturday in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, believed to be the site of Jesus' crucifixion, burial, and resurrection. The Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, Fuad Tual, led a ceremony inside the church in which he lit a candle which was then passed on to the worshippers. The annual procession attracts Christians from all over the world. At the Vatican, Pope Francis will preside over a Mass at St. Peter's Basilica this evening, baptizing 4 adults converts in the Catholic Church during the service. The ceremony will mark the end of 3 days of intensive Easter preparations, set to culminate on Sunday when the Vatican's first non-European Pope celebrates Easter Mass in front of tens of thousands of pilgrims. And on the occasion of Easter, U.S. President Barack Obama encourages all to embrace their loved ones and give thanks for their blessings. Here are his words.
For millions of Americans, this is a special and sacred time of year. This week, Jewish families gathered around the Seder table, commemorating the Exodus from Egypt and the triumph of faith over oppression. And this weekend, Michelle, Malia, Sasha, and I will join Christians around the world to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ and the hopeful promise of Easter. In the midst of all our busy and noisy lives, these holy days afford us the precious opportunity to slow down and spend some quiet moments in prayer and reflection. As Christians, my family and I remember the incredible sacrifice Jesus made for each and every one of us, how he took on the sins of the world and extended the gift of salvation. And we recommit ourselves to following his example here on earth, to loving our Lord and Savior, to loving our neighbors, and to seeing everyone, especially the least of these, as a child of God. Of course, those values are at the heart of not just the Christian faith, but of all faiths. From Judaism to Islam, Hinduism to Sikhism, there echoes a powerful call to serve our brothers and sisters, to keep in our hearts a deep and abiding compassion for all, and to treat others as we wish to be treated ourselves. That's the common humanity that binds us together, and as Americans, we're united by something else too. Faith in the ideals that lie at the heart of our founding, and the belief that, as part of something bigger than ourselves, we have a shared responsibility to look out for our fellow citizens. So this weekend, I hope we're all able to take a moment and pause and reflect, to embrace our loved ones, to give thanks for our blessings, to rededicate ourselves to interests larger than our own. And to all the Christian families who are celebrating the resurrection, Michelle and I wish you a blessed and joyful Easter. God bless you, and may God continue to bless the United States.
Coming up next, we'll tell you all about Camelicious, the first dedicated and regulated camel milk factory in the world. Stay with us for the story and more. Welcome back. Palestinians clash with Israeli soldiers as they commemorate the day in 1976 when 6 people were killed during a protest against land confiscations. Palestinians demonstrated across the West Bank and Gaza to mark the 37th anniversary of Land Day. Land Day commemorates the killing of 6 Arabs in 1976 during protests against the confiscations of their land in Israel's Galilee region. In Kalandia, clashes erupted as protesters marched towards the area checkpoint. Protesters clashed with Israeli troops at the scene, throwing stones at the soldiers who responded with volleys of tear gas. In Bethlehem, demonstrators marched towards the barrier that separates Israel from the West Bank. In Gaza, several Palestinian factions held a rally to mark the day. Moving on to Egypt, hundreds of opponents of President Mohamed Morsi have clashed with supporters of the Muslim Brotherhood in the Egyptian city of Alexandria. Demonstrators hurled stones at one another near Sidi Jabir railway station. Train service also was disrupted by flame burning on the railway track. Riot police were deployed to separate the two sides and prevent further confrontation. Anti-Morsi demonstrators accused him and the Brotherhood of seeking to dominate the post-Mubarak era, while the Brotherhood accused the opposition of failing to respect democratic rules. The rift between the Brotherhood and its secular-minded opponents has deepened since Morsi was elected president, and spasms of street violence have obstructed his efforts to revive an economy battered by unrest. The first direct flight connecting Egypt and Iran in more than 30 years has taken off from Cairo International Airport. The Air Memphis plane, chartered by Egyptian businessman Rami Laka, is the first direct flight between the capitals since the two countries severed ties after Iran's 1979 Islamic Revolution. Officials say the flight carrying the Iranian chargé d'affaires and his family to Tehran will then fly back to Egypt's southern city of Aswan. Civil Aviation Minister Wael al-Ma'dawi had said that the flights would link the historic cities of Luxor, Aswan and Abu Simbel in southern Egypt with the Islamic Republic. Egyptian officials that scheduled charter flight between the two countries will be announced soon, but yet no date has been set. And former South African President Nelson Mandela is spending his third day in hospital. The presidency said he was making steady progress and was in good spirits. Mandela was admitted to hospital on Wednesday to be treated for a recurring lung infection. Messages of concern for the ailing 94-year-old, one of the towering figures of modern history, have poured in from locals as well as international figures. Nelson Mandela's ex-wife, Winnie Madikizela Mandela, says his family is humbled by the good wishes and prayers dedicated to the iconic statesman in churches across South Africa.
We are extremely touched and very, very humbled by the praying fraternity. And we were very touched this morning when we heard President Barack Obama also wishing Dada well. And it is very inspiring that at least we have the whole world on our side. It is a very difficult time. Dada is doing well. He is responding very well to treatment. And we thank the media for at least giving us space and respecting the privacy of the family. We are very, very grateful.
Now for news around the world in brief, at least 83 mine workers were buried in a huge landslide at a gold mining site in a mountainous area of Tibet. Chinese state media says no survivors have been found yet. More than 2,000 police, firefighters, soldiers and medics deployed to the site, about 70 kilometers east of Lhasa. The team conducted searches armed with devices to detect signs of life. 30 excavators were also digging away at the site last night as temperatures fell to just below freezing. North Korea says it is entering a state of war with South Korea in a continuing escalation of angry rhetoric directed at Seoul and Washington. This is according to the North State-run television KRT. South brushed off the statement as little more than tough talk. Despite its threats, few people see any indication Pyongyang will risk a near certain defeat by restarting full-scale war. The South Korean Defense Ministry said there was no sign of unusual activity in the North's military. And at least 17 people were killed after a building under construction collapsed in the center of Tanzania's commercial capital, Dar es Salaam. Rescuers searched for survivors under the rubble with conflicting reports about the number of missing. They believe construction workers and boys playing soccer nearby were among those traps. The building in the Karikeo district was at least 12 stories high. Camel milk could be sold in a supermarket near you. Camelicious is the first dedicated and regulated camel milk factory to be built in the world. This high-tech camel dairy has plans for global expansion. The farm, which has approximately 3,000 camels, was started 10 years ago by Dubai's leader Sheikh Mohammed with the idea of promoting camel milk. The farming is intensive, but the animals eat only carrots, hay and wheat bran and are free from hormones and additives. Now, Camelicious is looking to increase the variety of products, including cheeses, ice creams, butter, ghee and long-life milk, which doesn't need refrigeration. Most of these products are now available in local shops, and Camelicious aims to export them worldwide. Dubai will begin exporting to the European Union starting April after the EU approved exports last month.
The camel milk has a different protein structure, so people who are allergic to cow milk would not be allergic to camel milk. Even those who could not tolerate sheep or goat milk, they can tolerate very well camel milk. Also, it is easily to digest, some vitamins are higher, and naturally the fat content is lower. And there are other studies from the former Soviet Union saying that it, for example, could be help to TB tuberculosis patients. Also their data showing that it can have antiviral effect against certain viruses.
And this marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now here's a reminder of our top stories. Future bloc leader Fuad Senura meets President Sleiman before heading to Saudi Arabia for talks with former Prime Minister Saad Hariri. Internal Security Forces Chief Ashraf Rifi hands over responsibilities to General Roger Salem in an official ceremony before he is set to retire. And finally, Catholic Christians mark Holy Saturday in the Church of the Sepulchre in Jerusalem, the site of Jesus' crucifixion, burial, and resurrection. Those were your Saturday headlines from Future TV, live from Beirut. Yumna Naufal will be here tomorrow for more updates, and I'll see you again next week. Have a great weekend and happy Easter.
أعلن استقالة الحكومة.
الاستقالة كان ينبغي أن تحصل منذ زمن طويل.
ماذا عن آلاف الخبراء الروس والإيرانيين ومقاتلي حزب الله؟